In today's video, I'm going to show you a few tips to make you more combat effective on the battlefield. This is Flashpoint Campaign Southern Storm. It's also mastering the weapon systems. These are pre-1984 Bradleys. So let's just start with something simple, and that is the spottable from. If we right-click this unit and go to the spottable from, this shows you exactly what units can see you at this range. So this Bradley, this 147 Bradley, is spottable by radar, thermal, and visual at 600 meters, 950 meters, and basically 500 meters. If we were to go down here, this one's more exposed and in the open. As you see, it will be spottable by radar at 1850, thermal at 1000, and then visual at 450. And then I believe we have one more up top. And as you see, it's basically the same, thermal at 600 meters. So real quick, real easy, like spottable from that's going to help you a lot on the battlefield. The next thing we're going to go look at are these T-80s I put on the battlefield. Basically, in this scenario, we've set up an ambush to kind of show how these weapon systems work and how these spottable ranges work. So if we click on this T-80, as you see, this unit is very visual. So it can be spotted at 7,200 meters. And if we go further out, let me see if we can find one that'll have thermal. Let's click on this unit right here. This unit is also extremely spottable. Visual at 1250 and thermal at 2850. Whereas this one's going to be basically the same. Visual 4500, thermal all the way up to 10,000 meters. All of that's really important to understand this ambush that we have set up. So let's start diving into our Bradley weapon system. So if we open up the unit dashboard, we can kind of take a look at it. We can see what it has. And if we head on over to weapons, we can see that it has a TOW anti-tank missile with a range of 3750 meters. And it has a high explosive anti-tank warhead of 100 that's rated at 101. Now if we head on over to the sensors area, we're going to also understand that it also has a thermal imager that can identify units at 3000 meters, classify at 3700 or 35, and then detect at 8000 meters. So why is all of that important? Well, let's head on over to this T-80. So if we click on this T-80 right here and we do subunit inspector and we take a look at its front armor, as we see, we can't take this unit on directly. So we are currently trying to ambush it. With a high explosive anti-tank, its front armor rating is 138. Remember, our high explosive anti-tank penetration rate was 101. But its side rating is it's much better for us. If we go like to the hull, it's 38, rear 15, and top 12. We can also take a look at its weapon systems. Yes, it does have a laser rangefinder, but it does not, and it also has a night visual system, but it does not have thermals. So understanding the weapon systems or your opponent and what weapons they're bringing to the fight is really critical into setting up your units and how you array your forces, right? We're extremely okay. This unit's not going to detect us basically until 450 meters. So if we truly wanted to set up like a point blank ambush to kind of utilize those side shots and eliminate as many of these T-80s as possible, remember this is also a company sized formation. We can't see that information right here, but it's a relatively large T-80U combat group. So even though we only have one Bradley currently operating in this sector, it's still going to struggle taking on these T-80s. So even though we do have like the ambush, we have the ability to ambush them. We just don't have the firepower to kind of stop this unit. The most we can do is kind of deter that T-80 company from coming this direction, and maybe put a variety of weapons downrange. So like TOW missiles, cannon fire, all to make it look like we're much larger than we actually are. And if we click on our cavalry scout, we can see that he has a relatively close range combat. He's not an ATGM team. He does have like obviously these laws which can't even penetrate the side armor. So even if we were at that 700 or that point blank 500 meter range, we wouldn't be able to take on these T-80s. So this is a pre-1984 Bradley, but it's one of the best pre-1984 Bradleys, and that's because it has that weapon system right here, which is the TOW that can penetrate 101 heat. So if we move on over to this next Bradley weapon system, this is a step down in the pre-1984, and don't worry, we're going to get to a lot of combat here in a moment. We can bring it up, take a look at the Bradley, and then if we come over here, we can see that it does have a TOW as well, but remember, it's only a 91 high explosive anti-tank. It is still like effective at a great range. It does have all like similar sensors, thermals, everything like that, but it is also a relatively small platform. And then it just doesn't have the combat power to take on these companies of T-80s. This is a T80 Bravo Victor weapon systems. It does have a fair amount of sensors, but as you see, it has no thermal sights. And so basically all we're trying to do in this scenario is kind of deter this assault. And then we do have another step down with a Bradley up here as well. We bring up the subunit inspector. It steps down a lot more with a 63 heat. So this is a really, really, not so much like a weak Bradley, but you're not going to be using this Bradley to deter a T80 assault. And then if we come over, it does have thermals as well. It's amphibious capable very clearly. And he is going to be taking on just generic T80s pre-1984 as well. As you see, its front armor is relatively weaker. So actually this Bradley, so this T80 main battle tank, is susceptible to all three pre-1984 Bradleys. So these high explosive anti-tank weapon system right here, this Heat 65 can easily shut down these T80s if it brings it back up. Let me close that back up. Right, front armor 91. So every Bradley can take on a T80. A basic T80. I mean, it has all the same sensors. It probably just has a little bit less range. It doesn't have this actually doesn't have any night vision. We could actually mod that in if we really wanted to give it like a night weapon system. It's also 9 active in the game. It's also a relatively large fighting force as well. So that's something. So we have basically 18 T80s on the battle of varying strength, but they are all and like armor capability, but they are also relatively okay. I mean, relatively weak in other aspects. They have no thermals. So we can see them, they can't see us. And actually, every Bradley can take on... Actually, nope. The only 2 Bradleys can take on this one right here. Actually, 1 Bradley, head-to-head. So your pre-1984, like your highest quality Bradley, can easily eliminate all 3 of these T80s. Well, these 2 T80s in a frontal fight, whereas he's going to need flank shots on these T80Us. These are really, really powerful weapon systems. So that's really important to understand. So on to our next tip is setting up our ambush. So now that we know what's rolling down the street, we have received an intelligence report. We can basically spot any unit coming into the position. So as you see, this unit is extremely spottable for us. We need to determine what our objective is or what we want to do with this unit. Do we just want to deter it from crossing this bridgehead right here and protect our objective? Remember, it's also nighttime, so that's something I forgot to mention as well. Right now, it's 10 o'clock at night. So we're trying to capitalize on both our sensors and our firepower at this moment in time. We want to stop this unit from coming across the bridge if that's our main objective, and securing this objective where our Bradley currently is. So if we were to go into our SOP manager, we can adjust like basically its fire discipline. We have short range at 1/3. That's basically 1,000 meters, but he's still, I mean, 1/3 is a little over 1,000 meters. So we're basically 500. Right at that range. He's going to engage that unless we removed all tactical initiative. But we could kind of set him to point blank. But at that point, he would be across this river and well in the area to challenge us. So we kind of want to deter him right off the bat. We're just going to put missiles down range, so we're not going to adjust our SOPs at all. Whereas this T80 right here, remember, it's relatively strong. He has a lot of cover he's moving through, so we set up Bradley up behind the objective with the objective of like engaging it at point blank range to incur as many casualties as possible. And then we're going to pull out of this position if possible. But as you see, this weapon system right here, see where we're spottable from? We're easily spottable in this distance. So by the time he gets through this objective and onto it, we're going to easily be able to engage him. And as you see, we can't spot him very well. He's only spottable right along here. So this is not a super ideal position to have a Bradley or set up an ambush in. So that's just something we need to be aware of. Basically, he's going to be well within our range. He's going to be able to engage us, and we're going to be shooting him with our tow missiles, basically at point blank range. So it's going to be a gunfight right there. And then we have this unit as well. He's basically this entire situation. He's spottable at all these locations, but we can he's only spottable right here. So basically, we can't see him where he's currently at, but as soon as he moves forward, more than likely we'll be able to see him. He can't see us until he gets into position, which will make us visible at thermals at around 600 meters. So basically, when he's on our doorstep, he'll be able to see us, and he'll just have a good time. So that's just a few things. So let's just run through this scenario real quick and kind of see the results and see what happens. So let's hit start. We're all set to ambush. And as you see, we start putting rounds down range. He immediately tries to deter that T-80. And he's just rolling bad luck right there. But remember, it's not so much about like hitting, it's just mostly deterring this assault. All right, so we got our first kill on the board. He still looks to engage. And unfortunately, we are not deterring that one. He got within range to engage us, and he eliminated our Bradley right off the bat. All right, good for us. We kind of penetrated that T-80U. He's returning fire. He can't really see us too well. Remember, he only has night sights. We have thermal, so we definitely outclass him with firepower. And unfortunately, he does get a hit on us. Oh, he destroyed our cavalry scout, so our Bradley's still active right here. So it seems like he hit our infantry, which is super unfortunate for them. And so we can kind of take a look at all these units. So this unit's pulling back. Obviously, that's like the smart thing to do. If we were to click on this unit and view it, we can see our Bradley's basically totaled, and our cavalry scouts are going to pull back. Remember, they could actually, let's see what they could do. They can't really do much to this T-70 or this T-80 right here. It's got relatively decent armor unless they get like a flank shot on it. Basically, the only way they'll engage these T-80s or at least incur any damage on them is to get a flank shot. So one Bradley for one T-80, I mean, that's kind of a fair trade, plus our crew survives. And then we come over here. Unfortunately, for some reason, we lost a cavalry scout. So I guess that maybe he was using a high explosive shell right there, but he definitely took out that cavalry scout during that assault. And our Bradley lives to fight another day. Our T-80 is looking to reinforce this position up here, mostly because this objective is secure. So we could actually like stop this movement and try and assault him basically along this route or attempt to cut it off. We're not going to reinforce this position. Remember, we need to ambush this T-80 just due to the amount of armor it has, right? Frontal armor. Let's take a look. What does this Bradley have? 91. So with that 91, we would need to ambush it because he's at a 94 armor, unless we get side shots. So he's moving to reinforce, but if we take a look, oh, we can't see what casualties he took. And then coming down here, this unit actually just dispensed a lot of ammunition, which we knew it was going to do that. Key ammo is down to 94%, so he does have a fair amount of tow weapon systems left, but he is fighting off a T-80, so it really depends on what that T-80 decides to do. So let's see what happens in one more turn. Right? And that T-80 is going to choose to opt to engage us, and that's fine. We know. We've lost line of sight on that. Here comes this gunfight. So we actually get some law eliminations right there. And then he takes out our last crew. And that unit's going to push south, and this guy's basically deterred at this moment. He's not going to push forward because there's really no reason to. There's a lot of fire going his direction, and he doesn't want to participate in that fight. So even though we did set up a good ambush, we basically traded 2 Bradleys for a good amount of tanks. So 2 Bradleys, 2 small little recon squads. We eliminated at least 3 tanks. And then this unit, unfortunately, did not suffer any casualties, but he's not going to advance on our objective because we're right here. If they choose to move down south, then we would be getting attacked from 3 sides. So that spottable, what is it? Spottable from is extremely useful tool to setting up your ambushes. And then having the right firepower, understanding what weapon systems you have is also extremely useful. But, I mean, you also need to have, like, backup. You can't just have Bradleys sitting out in the open. So basically, our Bradleys were extremely effective in doing what their job was. It's just unfortunate that we didn't cause the amount of casualties we can or possibly could have, which it comes down to just like where your tow missiles hit. We've actually incurred a lot of casualties on this unit before and this unit before. So it's just sometimes it does come down to luck. It is nighttime. Our accuracy is a bit lower. And once those T-80s get well within 1,000 meters, they're going to be extremely effective at eliminating our Bradleys. All right, guys, I hope that video was helpful. I hope the deep dive into the weapon system helps you understand how to position them, what to do with it, and exactly what the sensors are. And hopefully we move forward with different weapon systems to see what they do. Peace out, guys.